空いててよかった。
Convenience stores are an iconic part of any visit to Japan. There you'll find famous chicken, cheap coffee, and all the seasonal treats your heart could possibly desire. But when did they even come to Japan? What made them such an important part of Japanese society? Let's find out. This is quite a different video from the ones I normally make. I just genuinely really take an interest in topics like these. I spend like hours and hours just googling like random topics, so I hope that you will also find this interesting. Also, as a warning, I might look off to my laptop quite a bit because I got a lot of notes and the memory of a goldfish. There's just no way I'm gonna be able to memorize this information, like it's a lot. So I hope it's not gonna be too distracting. I hope you'll still enjoy the video. I spent several hours over several days reading up on random Japanese blogs to find this information, so I really appreciate it if you would like and comment to let me know your thoughts. Also, if you're new here, why not hit that subscribe button? Thank you very much. Let's get on with the video. Just so that we're all on the same page, let's start with a basic summary of what a convenience store actually is. Convenience stores in different countries all have different features, but to sum it up very simply, it's a small shop that sells daily necessities like milk, bread, coffee, snacks, sodas, tobacco, alcohol, basic things like that. And in some places, including Japan, they also have things like ATMs, photocopiers, and they stay open 24 hours.
大体いつも夜はこういう時間に買い物に外出ること多いんですか？やっぱり多いですね。普段仕事も遅いから。
In order to look at the history of convenience stores in Japan, I thought it'd be good to look at the history of convenience stores overall. The first convenience store was opened in 1927 in Texas, USA, when an Oak Cliff ice seller began selling bread and milk in response to customers' requests. Although small grocery stores and general merchandise were already a thing, Thompson, the founder, thought that selling basic items in convenience stores would reduce the distance that customers had to travel. This later developed into Southland, the operator of 7-Eleven. The Ito Yokoto Japanese chain of grocery and clothing stores was founded in 1920. In 1974, Ito Yokoto merged with 7-Eleven and opened their first store in Toyosu, Tokyo. Watch until the end because I actually went to this first 7-Eleven in Japan. I'll show it to you in just a bit. This was the first 7-Eleven, but not the first convenience store. There's a lot of debate around what constitutes as the first convenience store in Japan. But from what I could find, the very first convenience store in Japan opened in 1962 at Tajimi Station in Gifu. Unfortunately, no matter how much I looked, I couldn't find any further information on it. I couldn't find any pictures, and it's quite far from me, so I wasn't able to go check it out myself. This was followed up by a convenience store called Marusho, which opened in Kobe in 1968. Then in 1969, the first My Shop was opened in Toyonaka, Osaka. This is regarded by many to be the true first convenience store in Japan, and in my opinion, it seems like it is the first convenience store chain. The chain served mostly West Japan and was sadly dissolved in 1986, although there do seem to be a couple My Shops still around. They're just individually owned, not part of the franchise. In fact, one store in Asama actually appeared in a 2017 drama called Quartet and seems to be a popular site for fans to visit. Then in 1971, Coco store in Aichi Prefecture opened up. And in fact, even marketed itself as the birth of Japanese convenience stores. So you can clearly see how the title is up for debate. I've seen that their reasoning is that My Shop was also a supermarket and therefore not like a pure convenience store chain. I'll let you be the judge. The name Coco is an acronym for convenience and comfort, which I thought was really cute and just shows you how much Japan loves its acronyms. It was originally opened by Morita Co., which is interesting because this is actually a company that's run by one of the founders of Sony, with the aim of saving the liquor store, which I suppose was going through a rough time. It's said that Kazuaki Morita, the brother of Sony founder Akio, went to the US in desperate search of a way to save the liquor stores and was impressed by the convenience stores there, prompting him to bring back the concept to Japan. Apparently, Coco Store actually reigned as the leader of convenience stores from the 1980s to the 90s, because until 2001 there were very strict restrictions on who could and could not sell liquor. But since Coco Store actually originated as a liquor store, customers could feel safe knowing that if they went to a Coco Store, they could definitely buy beer.
3人で1本は多いかな。
陽子、1人1本じゃ足りないわよ。分かってるって。
Interestingly, they also sold wine by weight, which I've never heard of before. In 1994, they changed the game by introducing in-store kitchens to provide the freshest bento lunches available. During the 90s, there was a lot of competition between supermarkets and convenience stores to keep the busy population coming. And some Coco store locations were even cooking fresh meals 3 times a day. Looking into why Coco store was so popular, it seems like it was just simply really convenient to have alcohol and ready-to-eat food in one place, especially when business hours were increasing and the birth rate was decreasing. So you may be wondering, what went wrong? Why do we never hear about Coco store anymore? To begin with, it seems like there were restrictions on how long liquor stores could stay open, and at this point, all of the other convenience stores were open 24/7. So it was really hard for Coco store to compete. Also in 2001, the laws on who can and cannot sell alcohol were very much loosened, and so they were no longer at an advantage even when it came to alcohol. In fact, 7-Eleven even sells its own private label beer. On top of that, they mostly only had stores in Western Japan, but once 7-Eleven honed in, game over. Finally, their marketing was very much based around their food being healthy, but Lawson also had the same focus, and so I guess they kind of just lost to the competition. One little piece of information I really like is that until its closing, it had this little sign outside detailing its origin and the claim to the name of the first convenience store in Japan. In 2015, it merged with Family Mart, which is a very common occurrence. The smaller convenience stores always just get absorbed into the bigger ones eventually. Another example of this was AmPm, which actually did a lot to change the game when it came to convenience stores. It originated again as a convenience store in the US run by BP and was established in Japan by Kyoto Oil Company in 1989. From the start, it set itself apart by marketing itself as an urban convenience store, mainly only setting up in central Tokyo areas, although apparently the high rent caused a low profit margin. Nevertheless, they were pioneers in the convenience store world, starting with their sale of low additive frozen lunches in the 1990s, apparently sold to discourage food waste. Their available bento lunches actually rotated and changed every 2 to 3 weeks, allowing customers to always have new options, and they even had options that were specially picked by celebrities. Most importantly, in 2001, they were actually the first convenience store to implement electronic money. This was even before Passmo was a thing, so that was a pretty big deal. Unfortunately, as the way with convenience stores go, it was merged with Family Mart in 2010. Speaking of Family Mart, let's go through the history of Japan's second most popular convenience store chain, with 16,645 stores in Japan today. Family Mart is the only one of the 3 convenience stores most popular today that had its origins in Japan. In 1973, a supermarket chain in Saitama opened an experimental little tiny shop that they then renamed Family Mart in 1978. Some even consider this to be the birth of convenience stores in Japan, so it really just depends on who you ask. The idea behind the name of Family Mart is that customers, franchise stores, and headquarters want to develop together while having a family relationship. The logo now is the iconic green and blue stripes, but it was actually a completely different logo all the way up until 1998. One little piece of information I actually think is quite cute is that you can still see the logo on Family Mart entrance doors to this day. So next time, why don't you have a little look? Family Mart is also famous for the little jingle you hear when you enter, which goes like this. Din 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 din. Din, 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 din. Yasu actually uses this as his town tune on Animal Crossing, even though he used to work at 7-Eleven. All of the sensor chimes are made by Panasonic, and the jingle itself is actually called Melody Chime Number 1, and it's not exclusive to Family Mart. Although most people would probably agree that it's iconically Family Mart's jingle, unless of course you live in Okinawa, where another convenience store is already using that jingle, so Family Mart has to use a different one, so it doesn't get confusing. Family Mart is mostly famous for its fried chicken, which is called Famichiki, short for Family Mart chicken. I'm sure you would have struggled figuring that one out. It actually has a really interesting history. From what I could find, in 2001, Family Mart actually started the trend of having hot food next to the counter in convenience stores. They all do that now. This was the work of a Mr. Ueda, who'd become president that same year, who claimed the fried chicken at Family Mart was the same as the ones he made while working at a famous restaurant which supposedly had the best fried chicken in the industry, like it won a bunch of awards and stuff. Since Mr. Ueda had a lot of experience in the fried chicken industry, he was able to market it, and it sold really well up until 2005, when they came to realize that 80% of their fried chicken customers were men. They needed a product that would sell well with women, and so in 2006, a boneless, flat piece of chicken that came in its own little paper bag was born. Yup, Famichiki was made to market to women. do with that information what you will. Family Mart is actually also famous for its sweets, although I would say less so than Lawson. In the late 90s and the early 2000s, competition was pretty hot with the convenience stores and they all started to sell their own private label sweets. Family Mart was no exception, with an example being Miss Kuru Kuru, which was released in 1998. It was a 3-layer dessert made with fresh cream, mousse and jelly with 3 different flavors: coffee, strawberry and mango, with cute little mascots to match. The naming is also pretty clever. Kuru Kuru means like 12, but they were also marketing it as like kuru, which means like cool, so I like it. More interestingly, in 2007, Family Mart released the Ore no series. Ore is basically a masculine way to refer to yourself in Japanese. There's a lot of different ways you can say I that range from masculine and feminine. For example, a feminine version is atashi and a masculine version is boku, but the most masculine version is ore for sure. Apparently, convenience stores' customer bases are mostly men, like 70% men, which I had no idea about, but I asked Yasu about it because he used to work at 7-Eleven and he told me it is very obvious. Either way, Family Mart had certainly noticed, and a survey showed that men who were embarrassed to buy sweets at bakeries and patisseries were more likely to buy them at convenience stores. With this information in hand, they released manly versions of their desserts with black packaging, rich flavors, and large portion sizes. Examples include Ore no pudding, which means my pudding, and was a pudding with a large portion size, Ore no eclair, Ore no double roll cake, it just goes on. Apparently it's been discontinued, but that must have been pretty recent because Yasu and I both remember seeing it in convenience stores. Moving on, we have the 3rd most popular convenience store in Japan, Lawson, with 14,469 stores in Japan today. Just like 7-Eleven, Lawson has its origins in the US, with the first convenience store opening in Ohio in 1939 as a dairy farm. Lawson convenience stores were apparently really popular in Ohio in the 60s to the 80s, so if you're from Ohio, maybe ask your family members about it. Maybe they've been to a Lawson. In 1974, Dai-E Inc. signed a formal agreement to allow them to open the first Lawson stores in Japan, with the first one opening in 1975 in Toyonaka, Osaka, which is interestingly the same place where my shop first opened as well. Apparently at the start, they set themselves apart by mostly selling American side dishes. I've spoken to a lot of people who lived in Japan for a while about this video, and pretty much all of them said that they don't really like going to Lawson. Out of all 3, it's definitely the least popular. Even I don't really like going to Lawson. But to be in the top 3, they're clearly doing something right. To begin with, Lawson is actually most famous for its sweets, having launched the private label Frizzante, later renamed to Uchi Cafe Sweets in 1995. However, things didn't really take off until 2009, when convenience stores apparently began frantically trying to attract female customers, with Lawson releasing its now famous premium roll cake. The cake is hugely popular, with sales exceeding 18 million units in about half a year, and was the first chilled convenience store confectionery to win a Monday Selection Award. The cake is presented face down with cream in the center, with this presentation apparently attributing to the popularity of it. While originally their aim was to attract more women with the sweets, they found that men also like sweets. What? It's almost like food has no gender. Next, we've got Loppi, which is a self-service electronic ticket dispensing machine launched in 1997. Through Loppi, you're able to buy tickets for theme parks like Disneyland and Universal. You can pay for cinema tickets, for the Ghibli Museum, for online subscriptions like Hulu, the list goes on. Japan is becoming more and more cashless by the day, but it's still a fairly cash-friendly society, and a lot of people don't have debit cards they can order online with. So Loppi really filled a gap in the market. This kind of machine is really standard now, but you have to remember that it was made in 1997, which is way before the internet was what it is now, so it was pretty innovative for its time. Next, there's Natural Lawson, which was launched in 2001. Natural Lawson is exactly what it sounds like, a branch of Lawson stores that sells healthier, more natural foods. It's apparently quite popular with working women and only really exists in metropolitan areas, with only 124 stores existing in 2020. The small number of stores is reportedly due to their use of locally sourced ingredients. For example, their Yoshimoto Milk Monaca ice cream, which uses Yoshimoto milk from only 4 dairy farmers in the Kochi prefecture. 4. As you can imagine, increasing the demand too much would place way too much pressure on such few farmers. They also pride themselves in their hand-cut salads, which are apparently only that good because they're hand-cut, but like obviously only so many salads can be hand-cut in one day. Nevertheless, Natural Lawsons remain popular with frequent requests for new stores to be open. Natural Lawson takes store customization to the next level and carefully selects their items on a store-by-store basis, which may be why they're so popular. Finally, Lawson is quite unique in that it seems to be especially conscious of how it's affecting the environment and society. As of May 2020, Lawson had solar equipment at 20 of its stores, but the company announced in June 2012 that it would install solar panels at 2,000 of its 10,000 Japanese stores. On their website, they've also announced that they have food donation programs aimed at donating to children's homes. Basically, Lawson is the healthier, more environmentally conscious convenience store. Now we're on to the industry giant, 7-Eleven. As I mentioned earlier, the first 7-Eleven opened in 1974 in Toyosu, and as I mentioned, I did go and visit it for myself. As I approached the first 7-Eleven in Japan, I wasn't sure what to expect. Wait, I think that's it over there. What? Oh my god, I just checked and it is. We are looking at the first 7-Eleven in the world. Wait, that's not true. It's the first 7-Eleven in Japan.
Wait, Japan didn't invent 7-Eleven?
No, it's from America. Oh my gosh, you should watch my video. Looking around, there was nothing on the outside to signify that this was the first 7-Eleven in Japan. The inside was also pretty much the exact same. All the items they were selling were the same. There was really nothing of interest. Yep, it was just a regular old 7-Eleven. There you have it, folks. There was nothing to see. 7-Eleven is easily Japan's most popular convenience store, with 21,208 stores in Japan, and everyone I spoke to praising the quality of their bento lunches. Japan had a huge growth between the 50s and 70s, resulting in a full-scale industrialized society in a matter of decades and an unprecedented consumption boom. At this time, when you thought of local businesses, you typically think of family businesses, limited to the capabilities of individual families and availability from local farmers, and also struggling to compete with big supermarkets. Ito Yokado, in the pursuit to find a solution for smaller retail stores, went to the US and was impressed with 7-Eleven's franchise system. When they brought the idea back to Japan, however, they were met with skepticism. Their objection was that the convenience store business model was still too underdeveloped and was modeled off the US market. Not only that, but it was considered premature to focus on small retail businesses when large retail businesses were still not done establishing. Nevertheless, they pushed through and introduced a small to medium-sized franchised retail business model, adapted to the Japanese market, named York 7. They partnered up with local rice farmers, liquor shops, and grocery stores who were struggling at the time to make small shops adapted to suit the needs of the Japanese people. In 1978, it changed its name to the current 7-Eleven, and actually, in just 1 year, it overtook domestic rivals and took top spot in sales for convenience stores. In 1 year. It's said that 7-Eleven actually established a lot of the convenience stores norms that we see today. Notably, in 1978, they devised parikko film, which is a piece of plastic that protects the seaweed from touching the rice bowl of an onigiri until it's unwrapped, allowing for crispy seaweed. This is a pretty standard and pretty popular thing for convenience stores now. 7-Eleven was also the first convenience store to begin selling oden, which is a type of one-pot dish consisting of various ingredients like egg, konjac, daikon, and fish cakes, which is very popular to eat in winter. 7-Eleven has simply always just been really good at finding gaps in the market and filling them based on what customers want. In fact, in 1983, they were the first in the world to introduce what's called a POS system. POS, which stands for point of sale, is a system in which each store is stocked differently depending on local demand. Basically, every bit of information about how the items are selling is recorded. The time, the person who bought them, basically any information that can help them better sell the product. As you know, convenience stores are really small, and so they can only sell a limited number of products, so it's really important that they do choose the right products. And I guess that's something 7-Eleven was really good at. 7-Eleven is big on quality, and the chairman himself apparently tastes 7-Eleven products daily. Yasu actually tells me about these work trips he'd had when he worked at 7-Eleven, where they'd go to like big convention halls and they would all try the new seasonal items. The idea is that if the staff has tried the items, then they are more likely to be able to answer the customer's question. 7-Eleven was even late to the game when it came to selling coffee, and now they are the #1 bestseller of coffee in Japan. They beat Starbucks and McDonald's. Essentially, what makes 7-Eleven so popular is simply that it's good. And that takes us back to the present. Why are Japanese convenience stores such a vital part of day-to-day life here? Well, with long working hours and stressful school responsibilities, having a 24-hour convenience store that sells pretty much everything you could possibly need is convenient. Basically, the more stressful life in Japan is, the more convenience stores thrive. In fact, after the 2011 Great Earthquake, convenience store sales increased by 29.6%. Needless to say, they are here to stay. Thank you ever so much for watching this video. Please do let me know any thoughts you have. I worked really hard on this video, probably harder than I've worked on any video, so I really would appreciate if you would like and subscribe. Also, if you'd like to see more videos like this, please do let me know. This is a completely different video to my normal ones, so I don't know if you're gonna like them or not. With all that, thank you very much for watching. Bye!